All right, it's episode 3 of the Screen Devotees podcast. I'm Laura.
I'm Beth.
And I'm Greg.
Okay, I'm so glad to have you back to join us. Let's get right into it. We are so excited because now that we're done talking about the Oscars, enough already until next year, we're going to talk about some of our favorite streaming TV series. Now, again, as we say in every episode, there will be spoilers. So if you have not seen any of these shows and you are triggered by spoilers, please tune in after you've seen the show. And these are streaming series that the three of us have seen all the way through. And so we will be reviewing them in their entirety and not really focusing on individual episodes. And if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. There's a way to reach us through my newsletter and also through Spotify. Okay, starting off, let's talk about Expat. So Expats was on Amazon Prime. Amazon Studios coming up with some really good content lately. One thing I want to say before we really get into it is that what I like about this week's 3 series that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Expats. We're going to talk about the most recent season of True Detective, Night Country. And we're going to talk about Feud, Truman Capote and the Swans. And there's something thematically that ties these 3 series together. And this is my theory. You can tell me if you agree or disagree. It is setting as character. In each of these series, the setting, the place where the series takes place, the story takes place, the setting is like a character. And this is true in Expats. Expats takes place in Hong Kong. So tell me first, friends, Beth and Greg, what do you feel about Hong Kong and the role that it plays in Expats?
Let me tell you one thing. I used to date a guy from Hong Kong, and he used to tell me how oppressive and how it felt like you were compacted and how it felt like it was so overwhelming because the population is so big on such a small island. And I felt like that while I was watching the series. I felt like it was very claustrophobic.
Unless you're rich. You're rich.
Well, yes, of course. But I just felt like the whole place was very claustrophobic.
Yeah,
that's
I got that too.
How she made the series, and I really like that.
Did you spend
one other thing I just want to throw in that it's just a throw off. The housekeeper was Filipino, and my husband is Filipino, and he pointed out that she was a major actress in the Philippines, dearly beloved and very. So to see her in just a little, housekeeping role, a major actress that's a national treasure.
That's Ruby Ruiz. Ruby Ruiz was the actress who played that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about her too because she was really great and the role that she played. But that's really interesting. So when you were dating not your husband but this Hong Kong fella, did you spend a lot of time in Hong Kong?
Actually, I never got to go, but he would describe his life there and his daily life and things that happened to him there. And he didn't want to return because he felt it was very oppressive.
Well, that completely tracks with the whole feeling and sensibility of the show. The reason I asked if you had ever spent time there is because I was wondering about the weather. Like the weather seemed like I do know there's a lot of horrible smog. One of my former students actually lived in Hong Kong for a few years as an English teacher, and he just talked about how like this you could cut, worse than LA smog ever was, as you know, Greg, living back when smog was bad around here. But like you could cut it with a knife, but also the sheets of rain, like the rain that would just go on and on and on and just like torrential, horrible, gloomy rain. That's just like, soaking you to the bone. Again, adds to the sheets of tears that the characters shed. Beth, what about you?
Well, I didn't love it. I thought the music was great. I thought it had a really great beginning. It had that like that kind of Magnolia, the movie Magnolia, the way they set that up at the beginning. I mean, I thought it was a really good representation of class and the bubble that the wealthy live under. I thought a really telling part of I forget which episode it was when Mercy, poor Mercy, poor her, and her friend is saying, you know what, you gotta snap out of this because you have a lot of privilege. You can leave at any time. You have a
Mm-hmm.
passport and a visa. I can't do that. And I thought that was pretty telling. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was kind of a chore to get through.
Mm.
I didn't think the writing was that great.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the, I mean, I can't get inside your head, but I kind of, I hear what you're saying, and I kind of had some of the same feelings, and I think one of the reasons why it may have felt like it was such a chore. I mean, it really did. Well, first of all, it was a chore because it took a lot out of you emotionally. I mean, every episode was like this emotional tour de force, largely due to Nicole Kidman's character. Now,
See,
Nicole,
I didn't feel that way at all.
no, I'm not saying in a good way. I'm not saying in a good way, but I
No,
think
I wasn't emotionally moved by it at all.
really,
Um, and the thing about Nicole Kidman, maybe if a lesser known actress had played that role, but the whole time I'm watching it, I'm so hyper aware that that's Nicole Kidman,
hmm
and I just can't get past that. And it's like I feel that way with a lot of actors.
yes, yes, because it's this. There's so much to their persona that transcends any character. That unless you're an actor who is so skilled at creating a character, your persona as an actor transcends that character. And yes, she is one of
Yes.
those people. And I also found her, both her as an actress, sorry, Nicole, and also her as a character in the first like 2/3 of the series. She was insufferable. She was like, every time she was in a scene, it made me physically uncomfortable because she was just so, I mean, the way she played the character, and also the character themselves being this entitled. I had no sympathy for her, even though she had lost her son. Which, I'm sorry, like, okay, talk
Oh,
about
you
talk
do
about
not
being,
let your kid.
let your kid
Would
out of
you
your sight.
ever let your?
And actually, I know Greg is going to agree with me about this. Not only did she, is it her fault for letting her kid out of her sight, but you know what? That kid was a brat. I was like,
I was going to
when he
just
was
say that
kidnapped,
he
I was
was
like,
the most
good.
obnoxious child I've ever seen.
Take him. The other kids are nice. Take him. If you're gonna take him. But no, I was like, I don't care. I don't care that he's gone. And she was making such a big deal about it because she was like,
But I
see,
was the only one that thought he was
no, I
obnoxious.
thought he was too. And I've had to deal with so many entitled rich people in all my myriad careers on this earth. I don't have that much pity for them. I mean, they're human beings, I know, just like us, so they say. But no, she was very privileged, and I felt so bad for her husband, her handsome husband, Brian T. And she was so mean to him, and I'm like, why are you being so mean to that handsome husband of yours? And he was just going through his own shit, and I felt like his character was so much more sympathetic. Even with his
Yeah.
religious journey, I'm like, like at first I was like, oh no, don't go to church. But then I was like, you know what? Let him do what he's got to do. And he was just going through his own thing. And she was completely detached from, like, she was disconnected from that. And you in your shitty little secret apartment, your tub, you don't even know what he's going through.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The loss of her son, that really doesn't matter. That was kind of like a
Yes.
red herring. It was
Yes.
more about the relationships and their with each other and the different groups of people, her
I
friends.
Yes, it was. Okay, can we talk about Soraya Blue? Soraya Blue, she was, even if you'd hated the show, she was fucking amazing. She was also very
Yeah,
insufferable. She was insufferable, but here's the thing. Here's the big difference
yeah.
from an acting point of view. Here's the big difference between Nicole Kidman's insufferable character and Soraya Blue's insufferable character. Even though they were both horrible, and I wanted to smack them both, Soraya Blue's portrayal was so much more believable to me, and so much more, I don't know, like she had more of a story going on. I don't know. I mean, I hated
She's
the way
also a better actress than Nicole Kidman.
maybe that's it. You know, Heartbreak feels good to place like this. I'm sorry, I just kept thinking of her AMC thing. Yeah, you know, yeah. And you know, I think. Well, I think the other reason that this show was so tiring to watch is that there were too many stories going on. I think it would have been better if the show had. I mean, I know it's based on a book, so you know, it's taking. I haven't read the book, and I don't know how much they could have strayed from the book, but I just think that if there was a way to tell the story without so many stories, to tell the main plot without so many other B, C, D, and E stories going on, like there was the central family with the kid who was kidnapped, and then there was Mercy's whole story and how the victim of the collateral damage. Okay, and then there was the housekeeper and her story, and then there was,
the ex-husband.
The ex and Ruby
right.
Reed, and then Charlie, who became, spoiler alert, became Mercy's girlfriend. I loved her character, even though I loved her delivery anyway. I thought she was great. I thought,
and I loved all the scenes when you saw those women under the bridge hanging out.
Yes, that was great.
Chatting and that camaraderie. That was really nice to see. It had really nice moments.
It did.
I thought all the music was fantastic too.
The music was really, really. Lulu Wang as a director. I think I think we'll see her continue to evolve as a director. I wouldn't say this is her best work, but every work can't be your best work. But there are things I liked about it. I mean, it definitely, I definitely was invested in the story. But any closing comments on Expats before we move on? I loved Hong Kong. I want to go to Hong Kong.
As far as the directing went, I thought she did a great job directing. There was that one scene where we don't know yet about the marketplace where the son was taken. And so then there's a scene where Nicole Kidman has to go there. And I forget the shot, but it was a beautiful shot where she's standing in this empty space. And then the next scenes are it filling up with people and this montage of just how busy it was.
Right. Yeah.
It was beautifully shot.
Yeah, the cinematography was beautiful, and the choices, I agree with you, a lot of the choices, it was a very beautifully filmed picture, series rather. And I do like a lot of the choices that she made. I just think as a director, in terms of how she unwrapped the story for the viewers, that's where and it's hard. It's really hard to judge a director's work, because a director's responsible for so many things. A director's responsible for communicating or working with the cinematographer and the editor on how the final product looks, how they interact with the actors, how much they let the actors do. There's just a lot, and it's hard. It's a tough job, not an easy job, but I don't know. I was weirdly enchanted by. I would love to go to Hong Kong and disappear for a while. So if I disappear, anybody, look for me in Hong Kong.
You could get a little apartment with a bathroom.
With a little tub. Not bad, let me tell you. Your money goes far there. All right. I think Greg, any final words on Expats?
No, I just think I sort of, is this awful, but I sort of enjoy films that not attack the rich, but, bring the rich down to our levels, that life is not the greatest for them too. So, and I think, it's just basically an unraveling of the rich too.
So. No, those are my favorite films and TV shows. Anything that skewers the rich. Am I bitter? You bet. Well, I just finished the Apples Never Fall. Is that what it's called? Apples Seldom Fall.
Yeah.
Which I can't talk about on this episode because let me just say that I thought the entire series was written by ChatGPT. I do.
Yes, absolutely.
I do, and then I'm just
one of the worst things I've ever seen.
And I'm going to leave it at that. But yes, I did love this horrible rich family, and they take that. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Let's move on to a totally different series, very different series. But again, the setting of True Detective Night Country also played a huge role, was a huge character. Now, I initially, in my notes here, I initially wrote down Iceland, which is not where it takes place. It's where it was filmed. It was filmed in Iceland, but it actually takes place in Alaska, which is odd. I wonder why they didn't shoot it in Alaska. Maybe they just couldn't find a place that was, but yeah.
And that you don't have to take a seaplane to.
Yeah, I'm like, that must have been an expensive production. Okay, Night Country, thoughts. What did you think of this season?
I thought it started out cinematography was beautiful, like the first couple episodes. I thought they were starting out on a very great looking, scenic series that was going to bring in lots of images, and I felt like it kind of petered out during the rest of the show. It kind of decreased a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's kind of disappointed me a lot in the series. It turned into more of like a lot of interior shots and things that really didn't bring in the environment as much as I liked.
Well, that's an interesting observation. My thoughts on that are, well, first of all, I think a lot of it had to be shot inside to kind of convey the isolation that people had, because, we're, as West Coasters, we're so used to having access to the outside. I mean, I know it's a little bit rainier where you guys live, but we're used to having easy access to going outdoors. I mean, these are people who not only it's too cold to go outside for anything, but it's dark.
Well, that's what I liked about it, because you never knew what time it was.
Yeah,
they never showed a clock. You never knew. And there were so many scenes where I saw them walking outside and it's pitch black. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, is it 2:00 in the morning? But no, it could be 2:00 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon.
I really like the way that kind of like messed with your mind.
Right. It's very disorienting, and yeah, that is very, very cool. I mean, that's one of the things I liked about also, not to go off on a tangent about another TV show, but a TV series that sadly was canceled after 2 seasons. I was so pissed. Alaska Daily. That is a TV series, by the way, that I recommend. It only ran for 2 seasons, and it took place in Alaska, and I think it was shot in the real life Alaska. And yeah, and a lot of those episodes, it was 2 in the morning and it was bright daylight out.
Right.
And yeah, and it was like, and the main character was a reporter who was a recent transplant. She wasn't used to the Alaska lifestyle, and she commented, her character would comment on how it kind of makes you a little crazy. Like if you're not used to that.
Like Al Pacino in Insomnia.
Yeah, that was a great film. I like that one.
I haven't seen that, but yeah, I imagine it's the same. I'll put that on my list, but I imagine it's the same. Yeah. So the disorienting thing, and then, well, the other thing too, Craig, is I think just the reality of the shoot is that they could only film so much outside, because I remember in an interview, Jodie Foster saying that it was so cold during some of the outdoor scenes that her lips froze, and you can hear her, like, she's talking and she can't even move her mouth because her lips are frozen. She was like, it was insanely cold.
And they couldn't like really bundle up their face area because
and
of
have
course
dialogue.
They're being filmed.
Yeah, and actually say dialogue. They'd have to do so much. They'd have to
right.
do the ADR later, and there's some that makes you go over budget. It really, for the audience, the majority of whom is not familiar with life in Alaska, it really does. It affects the character's behavior. And then, of course, the scientists, too. The scientists who are in this underground lair who don't even get to go to the outside world, who don't even go to the
well, they did.
The tundra.
They did get to go outside.
Yeah, they sure did. I love...
Very satisfying.
Yes, very satisfying. There was so much craziness in that show. Let's talk about the actors. The actors in the series. Of course, Jodie Foster, so nice to see her in front of cameras again. The last couple of decades, she's been behind the camera and doing a great job at that. But to see her in front of the camera again, playing a type of character, a type of, older woman who is very capable. She's not a Marjorie Main. She's a chief of police in her town. in her 60s, or I guess her character's supposed to be in her 50s.
Right.
Um,
And
Yeah.
I believed her character, as opposed to Nicole Kidman. I didn't
yeah.
keep thinking, oh, it's Jodie Foster, it's Jodie Foster. I believed her character because she's a better actress than Jodie Foster, than Nicole Kidman.
Oh, poor Nicole Kidman. What she's been through. I don't think she was ever the
Oh,
same
please.
after the Scientology. Come on, let's cut her some slack. But no, yeah, Jodie, because I think Jodie Foster is coming back to acting for that reason. Like she's able now. For so many years she was playing these young. I mean, she was a child actress and she was playing these young ingenue type roles. And I guess she took off from acting to raise her kids and spend time with her family and explore other things. And now she's playing these characters that we just haven't seen. I mean, like think about it, in our lifetimes, how many TV shows, except for Murder, She Wrote, and shows like that, have
Right,
had
right.
older female central characters who
Well, I
carry
think
the
it's
story.
changing.
And I love it.
I
I
think
love it
yes,
for
absolutely.
gals our age. Like, way to go. And that was the one scene, though. I'm sorry, I can't get it out of my mind. It's like, because I guess because it's HBO Max, they have to have a lot of sex scenes. And there's one scene where she's straddling
Oh
her
my
boyfriend, and I'm like, and I'm watching it, and I'm not shocked because of the sex part, but I'm shocked because I'm like, she's like 4 years older than me. Like, how's she doing that? I do yoga every day. There is no way. And that wasn't a stunt woman. I'm like, all right, Jodie, you have a personal trainer. Like, what the heck? How'd you get up there? And plus walking around in the cold. Oh, speaking of older actresses, I got to give a shout out to Fiona Shaw.
Oh, I love Fiona
Gotta
Shaw.
love me some Fiona Shaw. She is just great. I mean, I've loved her since Killing Eve.
Killing Eve.
And then in this series, she's my hero. Like, when I grow up, I want to be the old retired teacher who is hunting out in the Alaskan wilderness. Like, stay the fuck away from me. I'm gonna live in my little ice hut, skin a wolf, and I'm the person that people come to when they have to hide a body. Like when here comes the spoiler, when Evangeline says to Pryor, like, go find her, go find what's her face, tell her I sent you, tell her to go where so and so is, and she knew right away. Fiona Shaw's character was like, oh, okay, I'll take you to that spot. We'll dig a hole in the ice. But she should have been in more scenes. I would have liked
I agree.
her. She
Yeah.
was so good. But yeah, so Jodie we loved, and Kelly Reese, who's new-ish to acting, but so good. I mean, she was another person who I totally believed in that role. Like, really, it was very
Definitely,
easy to become emotionally invested in her character and her character's journey.
Yep. One thing I didn't like about it was the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
I like some supernatural, and I know they wanted to keep to the true detective and the supernatural, and a lot of the shots evoked the first season, but I don't know, it didn't have a payoff, If it had a
Yeah.
payoff, like when I saw that orange rolling down from under the bed, it's like, Jesus, the orange again. It was so Godfather. We know someone's going to die. I wish they had just done it straight,
Yeah. I have to
without any
agree.
of the polar bear with the blind eye and
Yeah. There's a lot of random stuff that was just superimposed on
but
it.
I did like the way the viewer really had to fill in some of the blanks. Like we never knew what happened to Danvers' son and partner. It's implied, and I like that there wasn't just a scene of their death.
Yeah, I would have liked a little resolution there, but that's just me. Like, I like everything to be buttoned up at the end. But I mean, I think it was good. I mean, it definitely, there was enough of a whodunit element for you to keep guessing. Like, it wasn't, so many crime shows and detective shows, from the first episode, I'm like, oh, I know who it is. And you really didn't in this series. Oh, I don't know.
Like, when they went to that old boat or whatever it was, to find that guy, and there's a Christmas tree there. Like, so who put the Christmas tree there with the lights? We didn't need that.
Yeah, there was some stuff that was unnecessary. I did really like, at first I was like, clearly the female actors and the female characters are far. There was such a huge gulf in my mind between the female characters and the male characters in this series.
Oh
But
yeah.
then looking back, you do have to think it's easy to overlook Pryor Jr., Peter Pryor, the young detective, who it seemed like Jodie's character was like a mother figure to him.
Right.
Because he would, I mean, he would move heaven and earth. I mean,
Right. You killed your father. Now clean it up.
That's right. Now go clean. And he's like, and he's like a yes man to everything. But I did like his. I mean, his character seemed a little bit like a lapdog in the first few episodes, but then I started to see the power of this character emerge. Who there was a little bit more depth to him, that because he knew that if he was going to be successful in his job, he had to obey her as a mentor. That she was, she was a little bit, she was flawed, but then it wouldn't be believable. I mean, if she was too much of a hero, it wouldn't be believable. She had to be flawed.
They were all flawed. Yeah.
They were all flawed. Well, that's the in all of these seasons of True Detective, they're all, all the characters have their character flaws that unify them. But I will say this, that I am happy to see this new era of spotlight on Indigenous actors. It's so great. There's so much talent that Hollywood hasn't recognized, and it's so good to see these, so many great Indigenous actors in this series. Yeah. Would like to see, more and better roles, but this is just the beginning. The last thing I'll say about that I have to say about this season of True Detective is that, and much has been said about, what does the ending mean? And just the fact that we have to ask that question, I think they kind of threw the towel in. I think they kind of, it was like the ending of American Fiction. It's like,
what ending are you talking about? Are you talking about the scene with Jodie when?
Yeah, she Navarro. She steps onto the deck of the vacation
and we don't know
house.
if we don't know if she's a ghost or whatever.
Yeah, we don't know if they're both, if they're dead, if she's a ghost, if they have if they got a vacation house, if she's underground, She's like, we don't know. Yeah. And I don't like not knowing. I want to know. Yeah. Like, come on, give us an ending. Don't be lazy. Yeah. Damn it.
I didn't mind it because, the crime, the deaths had been resolved. We knew how that happened. So I didn't mind it. I did mind if she was a ghost visiting her. I like to think that they're just like taking a break, man.
It's exactly. And that would have been cool. That would have been cool if they
winter,
Yeah. Like just, like and then Fiona Shaw would come out of the other door and they could sit down.
And we know she makes great food. I mean, that Christmas spread was for like 20 people.
Right. They could all just be hanging out. Invite Pryor over and his kid. But no, we didn't, I didn't get that ending, and I'm a little sad. But, Issa Lopez, definitely like her as a director and executive producer, much more than Nick Pizzolatto, I will tell you that.
Oh yeah. She took a lot of trolls online, and I think even Nick Pizzolatto said something.
Well, undeserved, because I think overall, even with the few dings here and there in this series, I think she did a magnificent job, making it, staying true to the, the overall, I guess, framework of the series, but also, making it her own, making it unique. Hey, are we ready to talk about Feud?
Sure.
Okay. Oh,
unless you have something else you want to say.
Cocktail if we're going to talk about Feud.
Why? Greg, why do you need a cocktail to talk about Feud?
I have to preface this by saying, as a younger person, as a gay young male, actually Truman Capote was like sort of like a hero to me. Not a hero because, but idol. I don't know. I always was thought I was going to be a writer too. So it's all mixed up to me. But I always kind of marveled at him, to tell you the truth.
He was always out too. He was always
Yeah.
Yes, you got
himself.
to give him that. You got to give him the fact that he was
So
out and proud.
I come in with these feelings watching the show, and it's, oh my God, it's terrible. After my illusions were dissolved.
Well, there were two other movies made about Truman Capote that I liked a whole lot better than Feud.
Yes.
And one of them
Yeah,
starred Toby Jones as Truman, and the other one was it Philip
Right,
Seymour
yeah.
Hoffman?
Philip Seymour
right?
Hoffman was amazing.
Yeah,
as
they were
Truman.
both amazing and both really good movies.
Well, yes, and I agree with you there. I didn't see the first one you mentioned, but I did see Philip Seymour Hoffman. I'm going to have to see the second one because the other one you mentioned, because I think it is streaming. Okay, so Feud is an FX production, which is also available through Hulu, and just to stick with our theme, the character in this series was New York City, because these characters could not have existed anywhere but New York City. But a secondary setting slash character was L.A. So
Malibu.
Yes, and so I kind of saw that as New York City. According to this series, New York City is where you go to live, and L.A. is where you go to die. Which is kind of true. Let me tell you, Joanne Carson should get her own series and a medal and an Oscar and a Nobel Peace Prize for her labors. But let me first respond to what Greg said. Okay, so Greg, I agree with you. I think, as a young queer person, sometimes, especially growing up at the time that we did, we didn't have many heroes, and so we kind of had to take what we could get. And, not like today. Like today, you've got Ariana DeBose. Like, God, what I would have done to have her as someone to look up to growing up, or somebody like that. But all the people who were, I didn't have Jodie Foster growing up because she wasn't out then, and things like that. So yeah. Anyway, so you had Truman Capote, but see, like when I was growing up, Truman Capote was a caricature even then, because my only knowledge of him, and my mother loved him, by the way. My mother would always have, like, whenever he was on television, whenever he did a television appearance, my mother would always turn it on. But I remember watching it even as a very, very young kid and thinking, this is so sad. This guy's drunk. He's high off his ass and he's slurring his words and he's not making any sense. And he's like a cartoon character. And like, why do people adore him? Like, I did like, and again, it was because by that time, he wasn't even recognized for his writing. He was notorious as a figure of society, and as a person who went on talk shows and made a fool of himself, and so I didn't see the appeal of him. But, at that age, I hadn't read any of his books. But I think the thing that was tough about this series is that now, if you read Lawrence Lemur's book, which I'm still reading right now, I'm in the midst of reading it, and the book says really, except for the first couple of chapters, it says very little about Truman Capote. It's really about the women and the fact that he was the linchpin between all the dots connected to him, rather. And I think that it's really hard for the Swans to be the focus of the series when you have an actor like Tom Hollander, who is so strong and who steals every scene, and he's larger than life. Because, I think that's probably one of the problems I had about the series, is that the series seemed to be about him, but it was really supposed to be about the Swans. And just the fact that he exposed them with his, that Esquire article, I don't know.
Exactly. I wanted to see more backstory about the women. And, well, first of all, it wasn't really a feud. It was a falling out.
Yeah.
It was way too long. I found it to be really tedious to get through, especially the last few episodes. So many ghosts, I mean, Why wasn't Truman haunting his own auction at the end?
Right.
Wouldn't that have been perfect? I mean, the women were there. Why
Nobody
wasn't he
invited him.
there?
And
Truman
honestly,
would never have missed it. So
we
that was
did
dumb.
not need so much. Like Jessica Lange, you could have stayed at home. It's
Well,
okay.
she's Ryan Murphy, and
I know they
we
wanted to
always
have the connection to the first series, the first
bring her
season.
Southern, yeah.
She's a much better actress than that. But it would have been fine if she made like one or two appearances, and it's like, okay, we get it. His mother was a monster. She was horrible. She damaged him. We get it. But she didn't have to be in that many scenes and that many episodes because it got to a point where she really didn't add anything, especially when he was dying and like she was coming to take him. We didn't really need that. That was unnecessary.
Right. And do you honestly think when Babe Paley died that Truman was, that she saw Truman waiting for her?
No.
I really think that they made too much of a connection between the women and Truman Capote. I wish we had gotten more about the women and their background, but he wasn't that big a deal. Once he published the Esquire article, that was really it. I'm sure that they didn't just talk about it all the time and think of ways to hurt him all the time. They had their own shit going on.
Well,
but they had to make this a feud.
And they had to make enough content for there to be several episodes, because let me tell you the truth of the matter.
Episodes.
There was so many episodes, and if you read the book, and by the way, I'm not recommending the book because the book, I hate to tell you, is really not that well written. The book it's so I don't know.
Well, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah, the book is pretty lame. But if you read the book pretty much comes out and says that the main problem with these women is that they were actually boring people. They weren't interesting people. They were boring and tedious, and the only reason that he hung out with them is so that he could get into the inner circle of New York City society and be invited to all the things and have something to write about. He was the most interesting person in that whole circle. None of them were interesting. Naomi
Except
Watts,
the show. The show seemed to hate him.
The show seemed to hate him. Well, here's the thing is that I don't know how much of this is true, but this is like a theory I have, is that I think that John Robin Bates, who wrote every episode, his partner in real life is Joe Mantello. Joe Mantello plays Jack Dunphy. Right. And I think it was an excuse for him to get Joe into more scenes, which I loved his character. By the way, nothing against Joe Mantello. Joe Mantello was great.
But every scene was the same. Every
scene. It's like, Truman, I'm bailing you out again. And
exactly.
now I'm going back to Switzerland now. Don't make me come back.
The thing that disturbed me too was the amount of domestic violence with like him, Truman, and John
Yeah.
So much physical violence.
Because the show really hated Truman Capote.
They did. They wanted to inflict everything they could upon him. It was just awful.
I just want to mention the black and white ball because that's something I'm familiar with. I've read many things about it. And the way they portrayed it was that it seemed that there wasn't a lot of people in attendance. It was grim. It wasn't fun. When it was huge. It was a joyous, happy,
it was the event.
Wonderful time. Truman wasn't dancing with the ghost of his mother at the black and white ball.
He sure wasn't.
He was dancing with royalty from Europe. So I really hated the way they did the black and white ball. I hated the whole Maisley's thing with them filming it, which never ever happened.
And how many times did we hear chicken hash about the?
Yeah.
Well, they did serve chicken hash. That's true.
But they just went overboard on it to
right. Well,
they bring it down.
Right, to make him seem like this is who he really is, even though he tried to pretend, but he's really a chicken hash man.
And they made it seem like he had a miserable, unsuccessful party when it was far from that. It was the best party in decades.
Right. I wish I could have gone. I
would have gone in a second. I would have been more than happy to have the Maisels brothers film me. And he went to Studio 54, and he did go to Studio 54 with CZ Guest. Yeah, and CZ Guest was probably the most, not Babe Paley, even though Babe was very close. He was very close to Babe, but really the person who was closest to him was Cece, and I thought Chloe Savini did a good job in that
Yeah.
role. She was she was. I like the fact that she played it so differently than the other actors.
She was too modern.
She was she was kind of modern, but like Diane Lane didn't wow me.
I thought she was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, as
I loved her.
as Slim. Yeah. Well. All right. Okay. I don't agree. But
I loved all the Swans.
But nice to. But you know what? Nice to see Diane Lane in front of the camera. Nice to see her acting again. I haven't seen her in anything in a really long time. I loved Lee Radziwill. I loved
Callista Flockhart.
Callista Flockhart. I loved Demi Moore as the murderess. She was great. She was, she would have made a good ghost. She was always scowling. I loved that. And even though, the actress who played Joanne Molly Ringwald, even though Molly Ringwald, what happened to you, Molly Ringwald? What the hell happened?
I didn't even recognize her.
I know, but it's not about that. It's just about like what, you used to know how to act, but I guess maybe you don't. Maybe she didn't know what to do with Joanne Carson, maybe because Joanne Carson wasn't interesting. But you know what Joanne Carson did do is she let Truman, when no one would take Truman in, she let him come to write. And she was the one, she had to play the Grim Reaper. She had to make the phone calls, the poor woman.
Yep.
So sad. Anyway, and you know who, Vito Schnabel, did you know, he's an interesting little bit of trivia.
Yes, Julian Schnabel's son.
Julian Schnabel's son, his Truman's handyman lover in Southern California was played by Vito Schnabel. And there are some Nepo babies that are okay, and there are some that aren't. There are some that have no business being in pictures. And let me let you guess who I'm talking about. Am I being mean? Okay, I guess I lost another follower. I guess on my newsletter. Bye. Sorry, fans of Vito Schnabel. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Feud. I'm glad I saw it. I don't think I'd ever see it again. No more feuds, Ryan Murphy. We're done. Stop trying to make Feud happen. Oh, goodness. Anybody have any parting words about Feud, or is it time to leave the party?
Yeah, let's leave the party.
It's time to get in a cab and go home. Okay, well, before we go, we have our tradition it's our third episode, so I guess it's now a tradition of our recommendations for the week of our favorite. Oh, by the way, this is good. Yeah, so this is going to be our last episode with Beth for a while, because Beth is going to go
road tripping
with no cell service. She's going to go to the great outdoors and go camping.
Yes, I'm going in my camper van, Burt Vancaster.
Without television, how will you survive without streaming? But we'll somehow, Greg and I will find a way to make it work. Maybe we'll get some other guests on the show. We'll see.
Oh, do me a favor though, please. What? Do not talk about Ripley, the series Ripley, until I get back.
Oh,
okay.
Because I am so looking forward to it, and it starts in a few days.
Okay. We'll save it. Definitely.
We'll save Ripley. Got that, right. Friends? No spoilers, everybody. Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, good. Well, then, so this is so shoot your shot, gang. What's your reco for the week? Recommendation.
Okay. So I started watching a show, and in fact, I am going to finish the second season as soon as the podcast ends. A show called Resident Alien. A show I didn't think I would like, but a couple of friends were saying how it was really good. You got to check it out. It's on Netflix right now. The premise is an alien from another planet. He crash lands in this small mountain town in Colorado, and he takes on human form, and he tries to assimilate while planning to destroy the world. But as he becomes more human, he kind of loses that desire to kill the human race. What I wanted to say about it was that the acting is great. Alan Tudyk plays the alien, and people might know him from Firefly. He's been in a lot of sci-fi things. What I love about it is that there's a large amount of Native American actors in it. It takes place in a little Colorado town, and they're all so good and add so much richness to the story. There are also kids in it. Now, I usually hate children in movies, especially when they're cutesy. There are kids in this though that are cute, but they're not cutesy. I would totally recommend it. It's funny as hell. It's kind of like
Mm.
Northern Exposure, small town with all the quirky townspeople. Um, I don't have much more to say about it except just watch it. It's funny. It's
Okay.
heartfelt. I laugh. I cry. It's got it all. Great show.
And kids that you don't want to have kidnapped.
The kids do get kidnapped, but you'll just have to watch and see
All
that.
right, we'll have to
that
watch and
happening.
see. All right, Resident Alien. Thanks, Beth. Okay,
Resident Alien on
looking
Netflix.
forward to that. Greg?
Okay, I watched Fallen Leaves, which was the Palme d'Or, I believe is how they pronounce it.
Palme d'Or.
Palme d'Or.
The Palme d'Or at Cannes.
At Cannes. It's a Finnish film, a love story, a straight love story, and being a Finnish film, it goes extremely slow, but it was funny in a way that two people can have a misguided and things can happen, and they still. Well, I don't want to spoil it if people want to watch it, but it is an interesting love story, and I really appreciated the story, and I just love the filmmaker's take on it. It was a really great film to watch, and I'm sorry, I'm a romance person, so I love romance films. They're my favorite.
That's okay.
But
You can be our
husband-
romance recommender. What?
I have to send my husband out of the room. He only likes horror films, so I watch romance films secretly at home. So,
well, that movie's been on my radar for a while, and I would recommend anyone listening to check out the trailer because it does look really good.
It really is good.
Okay,
and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask what service is it streaming on?
It's on Mubi, M-U-B-I, but I believe you can
Mubi
on pay-per-view or some services like that.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be going in wide release soon. So, but,
yeah, if for those who don't know, if you are ever not sure where something is streaming, well, if you have a Roku, you can just search for it. You just type in the name of the show or the movie, and it'll tell you where it's streaming. But if you don't have a Roku, you can go on IMDb, InternetMovieDatabase.com, IMDb.com, and type in the name of the movie, and it'll tell you where it's streaming. So, but I thought I'd ask you since you were here. So it's on Mubi. Okay, I think I haven't activated my Mubi yet, but I will look for it. So I guess I'm going to recommend two things because I already recommended Alaska Daily, even though I didn't mean to. But that was a great series. I really liked it. It's about a teeny tiny newspaper in Alaska, and a very famous New York journalist gets sent as punishment, gets shipped off there. But at first she's like, like this place is really the dumps. But she, not to spoil it, but she does warm up to the staff, and a lot of indigenous actors are in that series. And
I saw it. It was good.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But so my film that I'm recommending though, real quick, is a film I really really liked. I was sad it didn't get more recognition. But I had heard about it, and I think it came out in 2021, either 2021 or 2022. It's a French film called Full Time. The French title. You did see it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it's À plein temps with still can't pronounce her name, but Laure Calamy, who you'll recognize her from Call My Agent, the original French series, 10%. Where she plays a very comic role. So she's really great at comedy. She's hilariously funny. In this film, it's a very serious role. And what I love about it is, like, a French film, it's very visual storytelling, and how this woman's life is impacted by this transit strike. Like, it's a transit strike, and you think, it's, for us, it would just be an inconvenience. But for this woman, it really ruins her life. Like, she she super commutes from this town outside of Paris to her crappy job in a hotel in central Paris, and she can't get there. And the whole film is her like running to catch a train that is too full, or a train that shuts down, or the trains are delayed, or this and that. So she's running through the whole film, hitching rides with people, and it not only impacts her getting to her job on time, but it also impacts her childcare. It impacts her ability to interview for a better job, look for a better job, like in so many ways. And it's just how she tries to survive.
And how being a woman juggling that is
a single mom.
So difficult. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's so difficult. She has no help. And then she tries to, get her ex-husband. She can't reach him because he's on a business trip, but, well, like giving away part of the story there. But, anyway, I won't tell you how it ends. But you guys know because you've seen it. But it's still, as a film, it's really well done, and her performance is it's great. She's so believable. Your heart just breaks for her. You're just like, come on, girl, like, let me give you a ride. You just feel so bad for her. It's very, very, very well done. And and I think that's it for this week.
Sounds
all right.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Beth and Greg, for joining me. So next time we'll have other things to talk about. We may return with a guest other than Beth. So Beth, don't be sad. But we definitely
I won't be.
Yeah, you won't be because you'll be out in the wilderness cooking s'mores. You'll have to tell us all about it when you get back. Have a safe trip, and Greg will talk. And we're going to end it here. Everybody, happy viewing. Bye.
Happy viewing. Bye.